Okay, great.
We're live, guys. We've been live for a while.
Hello and welcome to KCJC Sport Talk. I'm your host, Ken Connell, and my co-host is
John JC Campbell, live and direct from Kingston, Jamaica.
Okay. First, let me say thanks to each and every one of you who have subscribed to the Rossi's Brosis YouTube channel. We do appreciate all your comments and we look forward to seeing a lot more comments coming in. So, John, what's going on in Sports Buzz for today?
Boy, it's amazing you should ask me that because I'm not feeling so good at all, man. You must have heard what has been happening with West Indies cricket. In our history, Bangladesh doesn't beat West Indies cricket, and Bangladesh beat us in the first one-day international recently. That is not a good sign at all. I'm sure the president, Mr. Skerritt, no, must be sweating under his cap, man. I'm sure you must have heard.
Yes, especially in a one-day international. West Indies is the king for one-day international. So, but I guess they do have a alibi. They can say, well, you know what happened? That's not our first selection. The guys who were selected in the first group pretty much declined because of COVID. So a bunch of these, I think it's 9 players that are, second selection. That's not the first group of guys that were selected. So I guess they do have an alibi. But whether or not, it's unheard of. West Indies don't lose one-day international like that.
Yeah, but lose. But I mean, to Bangladesh is supposed to be the last side, they just stay on the bottom side, bottom feeder. But things have changed, eh? I think everybody's catching up now on cricket. It's no secret anymore. So I guess that leaves us to try to seek a remedy for our woeful state in terms of cricket. I mean, what is happening to West Indies? What do we need to do to improve on West Indies cricket? I guess that is an argument for another time still, but really,
but something needs to be done though. For any sport, you pretty much have to start at an early stage. I think West Indies cricket is lacking when it comes to an academy, to develop young talent in the cricket. So I think that we need to start building from there, ensure that we have good coaches and ensure that everything as it relates to sports is taking place. So it's just the structure right now. I think they need to fix the entire structure of cricket right now in the West Indies because, everybody's way ahead of us. So whether it be technology or whatever the case might be, we need to have something done and something needs to be done immediately.
Yeah, indeed. But it's also, I think it speaks well for the future of West Indies cricket too, because we can look at it in a positive light. It exposes young cricketers. And they will get a chance to bloom. They will get a chance to bloom. So we can look at it in a positive light.
Yes, definitely. As long as they go into the side and they shine very well, then they might cement a place in West Indies cricket and, might allow the West Indies selector to have a better pool of players to select from. So it's not a matter of just them going and playing, but it's a matter of them going, playing and showing up, prove themselves that they were being looked at by selectors when it comes to selecting the team.
Indeed. Well, let us see what happens. Let us see what happens with that because, boy, but on another issue, I read recently that a player by the name of Isaiah Stewart, he's of his dad is Jamaican, and he plays for the Pistons basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And he has expressed an interest in playing for Jamaica.
Okay.
You know, so that is I think is quite wonderful.
Yeah, that would be good. But what kind of let's say netball, not netball, but what kind of basketball foundation do we have in Jamaica right now to accommodate a player like him?
Well, that's the question. His willingness to play is one thing. Do we have the wherewithal to entertain or to handle a professional basketball player out of the United States? You know, do we have the capacity to do that? Because if we don't, then that will lead to some amount of frustration. And mind you, I don't know the fellow. I don't know his temperament, his motivation, but I get that he really wants to play for Jamaica, and he's 19 years old, you know. So I think that's a great thing, man. But I don't know. Do we have?
He must know something that we don't know about. But you know, like you're gonna play for Jamaica. You pretty much want to surround yourself with with a good pool of players when it comes to basketball. But we got to start from somewhere. So let's look at it that way. We got to start from somewhere.
But mind you, we do have. Remember, you know, he won't be the only one. There are other players out there who are playing international, should I say, basketball, and they have represented Jamaica in the past. Along with a local group of players here, you know, we have a nice mix. So I'm not worried too much about the talent per se. What I'm more concerned about, as I said before, is our capacity to manage and to handle and to give these players all that they need to, you know, to make the best of themselves, you know, and that takes, in a nutshell, you know, it takes money.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but one question I would ask is what kind of structure is there right now? You know, that's what I want to find out. What kind of structure is there right now to accommodate a player like him?
Well, when you say structure, I mean, we have an organizational structure.
Okay.
Here. I mean, we have the president is there. There's the Jamaica Basketball Association is there. There's a president. And it's functioning. Of course, because of the COVID issues, basketball too, for obvious reasons, has been suspended. You know, that kind of sport. But we have had tournaments across the island, and so that's going. You know, but so we have that structure. And again, coming back to it, the other structure that I don't know if we have or don't have enough of is the, you know, in terms of resources, I keep saying resources, and in terms of the financial resources, the personnel that is required for these professionals and so on, you know. But we shall see. But it's good that he wants to, you know, I must applaud the young man, Isaiah Stewart, of the Pistons. I must applaud him for his show of national spirit. You know, he wasn't born here, but you know, his dad is here, and he's very much in love with Jamaica. So that's a good sign. You know, I have to applaud him for that.
Yeah, that's the kind of structure I'm talking about right here, though. That structure that would accommodate somebody like him. But you know, based on the age group and what we're trying to do in Jamaica, I think that might benefit the youth in Jamaica in high school who have been playing basketball. So a little bit of him at his age group can rub off on those players.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
But I'm saying, but do we have to restructure totally to accommodate him?
No, man.
We have the resources to be able to do that.
No restructure. Well, not in terms of the organizational structure, as I said before. That is there. You know, the organizational structure is there, but that is basically something on paper. You know, to make sure that it works in a functional way requires personnel and resources, you know. But I know, just to go back to the point you made about Isaiah Stewart being here representing Jamaica, that you can tell what that would have done to the motivation, how much that would influence the youngsters looking on, you know, to see this, you know, professional from Pistons playing among them. So that is good motivation. So I applaud that, you know. Yeah,
so we have some leak information coming out of Spain regarding Lionel Messi. You know, over a month or so, the Barcelona fans were on the edge of their seats because it was believed that Messi was going to leave because this is the final year of his contract and he's now a free agent. So they were word was that he was going to be going to Manchester City, you know, and that Pep Guardiola was ready for him and everything. But now it's leaked that Messi personally spoke to Juan Laporta, who is the person who's supposed to be taking up the candidate for president. And he's saying that if certain things happen under certain conditions, he will sign a contract, you know, to remain there for at least another year. And some of the conditions that he's asking for, you know, because he was a little bit upset when Suarez left, you know, Barcelona. And so he was planning on leaving also. But he's saying that on the condition that they do some restructuring and also bringing anywhere from 3 to 4 top players, then he would play for another year.
Well, I wish him the best because, boy, I also saw where he's on the verge of being suspended from the league for having struck a player on the field, an opponent, you know, literally struck this opponent, and they are now the case is now being being looked at, and if he's found to be guilty, then he may well lose the opportunity to play in about 10, 12 games. So I hope he cleans up I hope he cleans up his everything. Maybe he's just frustrated still, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. But you know, these legends who are world-class players, they have to realize that they're not only role model off the field, but they're also role model on the field. You know, I know that we all are human beings, but you have to stand up to a certain level when you're on the field. And so, you know, I did not expect that from him as a legend in football. You know, you should be leading out in the era of sportsmanship and discipline.
But, you know, as you mentioned that, and this is something that we'll probably look at in future programs, the issue of psychology in sport.
Exactly.
Because they are all human too, you know. I mean, there should be highly trained human, but human nonetheless, and things can happen literally in a snap. And once it happens, you can't put it back and say, that shouldn't happen. It's gonna happen, and it happens, and then you have to either pay the price or you know, make the apologies or what. But it's a human thing, you know. And I guess the more trained you are, the more disciplined you are, then you can, you know, you expect different behavior types. But it's a human thing. It's really a human thing, you know.
But until that contract is signed, though, I'm still waiting to see, because, you know, that Manchester City is very attractive, and also another team that Manchester City is number one, but the other team that's looking at him is Paris Saint-Germain to go join up with Neymar. Then that's going to be something else. So I'm sure that even though he said that, until that pen touched that paper, anything can happen.
Right, indeed so.
So
but go ahead.
Let's quickly move on to our Jamaican athletes, you know, who perform outstanding over the weekend. You know, I just want to, you know, we want to make this real short, so I just want to make mention of Akira Nugent, you know, from former Excelsior High School student. She was placed first over the weekend at a meet held at Texas Tech. And Kevona Davis, that is in the 60-meter hurdle, and she actually had a good time. I think it was like 8.65 or something like that. I can't remember. But Kevona Davis, unfortunately, false started in the 60-meter. And, you know, already you see, you know, how we are as a Jamaican already you see a lot of comments coming in about, you know, negative comments coming in. But what people fail to realize is that in track and field, when you're accustomed to running the 100 meters, and if you haven't run a lot of 60-meter race, then it's a total different adjustment. You know, the whole idea of, you know, your reaction time is totally different. And reaction, the people got to remember that reaction is trained. It's not just something you inherited, it's trained. So if you have been training a lot of 60 meters, then of course the focus is totally different. You know, we know that she should have known better, because you don't anticipate the gun, you react to the gun. But of course, like I said before, it's a totally different thing. And for those of us who have been watching Kavona, we know that she's usually a runner that doesn't get out of the block real quick. You know, but she's very strong when it comes to her top end speed. She maybe have one of the best top end speed in her age group in the world. You know, so but then the 60 meter is totally different, and I'm certain that she'll calm down and I'll do much better next time around, because I've seen her fall started before in the 100 meter and haven't done that since. You know, so I'm sure that we're looking for great things from Kivona and, of course, Akira and all the others who performed well over the weekend.
Okay. Well, let us see how it goes track and field wise. The season is kind of still in limbo here because of the virus issues. So it's still kind of in limbo, but we're looking forward to certainly those athletes who went away, the Kivona Davises and so on. We expect them to shine.
And last
we
but
look forward to them shining.
Yeah, okay, sorry about it. And last but not least, John, we got to talk about the JFF saga continues, you know. Sorry to say, but it continues. And the fact that the JDF feel like they've been betrayed because of the leaked voicemail that we spoke about on the last program. And
Jamaica Football Federation.
Yes, and okay. I can't understand. I'm applauding the person who leaked the voicemail. I'm really applauding them because the way the whole situation was handled, you know, the association I've been facing a lot of heavy criticism, you know, because for the tone and the approach of the JFF in a 20-minute interview or 20-minute negotiation that took place. So they have decided to form a committee with members of the JFF plus an independent person to negotiate salary from now on, you know, and it's all good and well, but at the same time, I would admonish the people, the footballers, to make sure that they get themselves an agent to negotiate on their behalf also, you know, because as far as I'm concerned right now, I really don't know the general secretary and so forth, you know, the vice president and the team manager who are involved in that negotiation. I really don't know them personally, but I see some holes in what they're trying to do. And, you know, I'm starting to think about their integrity just like anybody else, just like how they're coming under fire by other people. I'm starting to think about their integrity. So, of course, the players want to make sure they get an agent who can negotiate in good faith on their behalf also.
Well, we sincerely hope that they can iron out their the kinks in the system, because they've been getting a lot of criticisms over the past couple of years, actually. And I remember last week you spoke about a situation where some past players themselves have been pointing fingers at the JFF hierarchy, you know, saying that they need to shape up. But let us see how it goes. But I gather you have a guest, man. You need to tell me about the guest we're supposed to be having.
Yes, so for tonight's show, let's let our viewers know that tonight's show we're going to be talking about sports nutrition and weight management or weight control. And we have a special guest. Her name is Mrs. Janie Drummond. So we just want to invite Mrs. Janie Drummond, and when she comes in, she'll tell us a little bit more about herself, and then we'll go straight into our program for tonight.
Yes, well, Miss Drummond, I'm dying to meet you, Miss Drummond. She's there connecting to audio, yes. But sports nutrition is an important thing, you know. It's one of those things that we tend to overlook.
Yes, it is.
It's one of those things is one of the areas we tend to overlook in terms of sports training and sports performance, the issue of nutrition. In fact, it's one of the things that we tend to neglect as individuals in terms of the importance of nutrition for life and for well-being. But I will let the expert, Miss Drummond, speak on this a little bit more. Welcome to the program, Miss Drummond.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
Right.
so my name is Janie Dufresne. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist, a weight management specialist, and I've been a nutritionist for about 8 years now. I've worked for multiple different companies like Deliverly, Quick Weight Loss, and an eating disorder clinic called Center for Discovery. And now I run and manage my own health and wellness company called Green Gains. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. Thanks again for having me.
Okay, so
Great. Where's it based? Sorry, where is the company based?
It's based, well, it's virtually based now, but it is based here in Florida.
Okay, great.
So then, what we first want to do, John, we want to look at the role of any professional when it comes to sports nutrition, whether it be a coach or whether it be a strength and conditioning person or whether it be a trainer. We want to look at their role, and we got to first point out to our listeners that these people have a responsibility to make sure that they educate their athlete or whoever is going to get involved in whether it be conditioning or whatever the case might be. They have to make sure they educate them, because in whatever they're going to do, it's an investment. And if you're going to invest in something, of course, you want to make sure that you fuel your body properly.
But
So
Ken, I want
importantly to get the best result.
Right.
Go ahead,
Ken, I wanted to ask Ms. Drummond though, just in a nutshell, before we even begin to speak on the role of the coaches and so in this, just a snapshot of what is nutrition really? What is it? What is nutrition? How would you sum it up in briefly? What is nutrition? Or what is good nutrition? Or what is nutrition? How would you sum that up briefly? To kick us off, to start us off.
Well, nutrition, to me, nutrition is the ability for food to be used in the body as building blocks, right? Okay. So it's our basic essential needs as humans. We need nutrition to survive, thrive, and grow.
Okay. Nicely done. All right, because I don't know if we pay enough attention to the issue of nutrition. But Ken, you're talking about the role of coaches. And so you just want to go and outline some of the roles that you perceive that you're talking about. We can just highlight them as we go along, eh?
Yeah, well, like I said before, they pretty much want to make sure that they educate the athlete about, if you're going to be investing so much time into whatever you're doing, then of course you want to make sure that you pay that nutrition plays a vital part in it. So you want to make sure that you get the best word for your investment. And in order to get the best word for your investment, then you have to practice good nutrition. Also, you have to make sure that you encourage them, because it's very difficult for people to change habits. We all know that it's very difficult for them to change habits. So you have to encourage them, keep encouraging them, and keep reminding them about the benefits, not only on a short term, but the benefit and also, positive and negative consequences. So you want to make sure you encourage them as you go along. And you for athletes that are still in high school and so forth, even in college, you might want to get the parents involved in it somewhat, so that they're preparing the right type of meal when the kid get home during the afternoon or during the evening. And if they're in college also, when they get home from college, you're making sure you prepare the right type of meal. And you also, as a coach, want to sometimes offer some special help, whereby you observe your athletes and notice maybe there might be some athletes who is not able to carry out the necessary work that is required of them in practice, whereby you can see that they do not have enough energy to go through the training or the game that they're playing. So you want to encourage them, and you also want to pay attention to athletes who might be underweight. and possibly some athletes who might also be overweight. All right. And you also want to be a role model. So you want to set an example. You don't want to be somebody who's trying to teach somebody how to practice good nutrition, and then you get on the team bus and then you go and buy some junk food. That would be a good example. So no matter how you tell somebody something, then the best way for you to get somebody to get involved in what you're trying to teach them is for you yourself to be a role model or to be a good example.
So you're saying in a nutshell that the role of the coach revolves around being an educator, a motivator, an advisor to parents, and a role model, showing the example. But let's move on, because I know that nutrition involves food, right? And various food groups. So I want to, if Ms. John could chime in here in terms of just, sharing with us, the major food groups, what they are, what they do, and particularly as it relates to, the wellness, health and wellness, and perhaps on a more important scale, the sports person. But let me open it to you for us, talk freely on that,
Well, food basically breaks down to nutrients, right? So there's essential nutrients that we need, all humans need. So things like water, this is most vital, right? We have carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals, okay? So when we're talking about nutrition, we're getting those things from the food. So it's just understanding how those two things relate, the nutrients and the food. So we're getting those nutrients from the food. So just to kind of elaborate more, water being the most essential liquid nutrient that we need, that makes up 60% of the body. It does so much. It's the universal solvent for all biochemical reactions, and it's used to maintain cellular homeostasis. And so it carries nutrients into the cell and it pushes waste products out, which is very important, right? It also acts as the lubricant for our joints. We need it for saliva, gastric and intestinal processes in the body, a shock absorber. So if we're talking about food groups, first thing we need to talk about is water, right? And especially for athletes, they need to be hydrated, because as quickly as we can't hydrate as fast as they lose water. So they're losing water and very fast, at a very fast rate, with sweating, right, when they're doing high intense activity. So it's important to make sure they're fully hydrated. And then being dehydrated can definitely affect their performance. So
absolutely.
just to start off with water. Go ahead.
But I was about to say that as well, on the issue of water, and a couple of programs ago, we mentioned about the coaches, the old school coaches back in the days, who would discourage athletes from drinking under the premise that, drinking whilst you train will lead to stitch. But that was just sheer ignorance back then. Things have changed dramatically now, and we know, as you have pointed out, the importance and significance of hydration and water. In fact, I also understand that in professional training, in training athletes, if you really want to be serious about hydration, they actually weigh their body weight, take their body weight before training. And then at the end of training, if they should weigh 2 or 3 pounds less, which they normally do because of sweat, then their job is to replace that loss of poundage in fluid, drink until your body weight comes back up to the before you play the game. But let me also ask you now, though, in terms of the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats, how do you see those being in terms of the importance of each of them separately now for the athlete? What is the carbohydrate to the athlete? What is the protein? And maybe to a lesser extent, what is the fat to the athlete, to the sports person?
Yeah, so for an athlete, the most out of those three, the primary source of energy is going to be the carbohydrates. Okay, because carbohydrates is the easiest form of energy. So carbs and fat are both energy sources. Protein is made up of amino acids. That's what the body's made of, is mostly protein. If you think of our hair, nails, skins, that's all protein, right? So we need, the athletes need the protein to rebuild muscle, like rebuild the parts of their body they're losing with activity. And they need carbohydrates for the energy. Yeah. So the general rule is 30 minutes before activity, you want to have simple carbs, because it's easily digested and used as energy very quickly in the body. And then after activity, they want to pair carbohydrates and protein together to recover and fuel their body afterwards. So after the activity, I would say you want to stick to more unrefined, whole grains, complex carbs after your workout.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. Ken, you're about to say something? I thought you were itching to say something.
Well, you know, I thought so we're dealing with those carbohydrate right now, right?
No. She was just going through the various food groups. And
if I may add something, so you're pretty much talking about, we're talking about glycemic index, right? When you talk about the carbohydrate, right? We're talking about before a game or practice, you want to use something which is low to moderate.
No, before you work out, before the activity, you want to actually go higher on the glycemic index.
Okay.
Right? Because those kind of carbs, those simple carbs, are going to be more easily and quickly used for performance. So what the glycemic index is, it's just a way to classify carbs in how their potential to spike the blood sugar. So how quickly they're absorbed in the body and used as energy is all about the glycemic index. So before activity, you want to go higher up. So that's when you want to have your high sugar fruits, your breads and rice, like white rice, those kind of like quick digesting carbs. And then after that, you want to finish off with oatmeal and protein, something after that's like slower digesting to help with recovery.
So from the food group, I'm trying to understand from the food group then that we're now discussing. So the three most essential are, we talk about it today. I don't like to say three. I like to say four, because for me, water is so critical that I have to bring water as essential also, because when it relates to performance, what are the biggest nutritional mistake that's made in most situations, of course, is lack of hydration, right? So many athletes underperform because they're not properly hydrated. And so I'm going to include water in that also. So we're talking about the ones that are mainly energy sources, such as carbohydrate, protein, and fat then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you tell us about what percentage, based on calorie, about what percentage should each food group, should be the intake for each food group? Like for carbohydrate, for example, which is the main energy source, about what percentage is recommended by United States of America?
Okay. Well, for carbohydrate, the recommended for a moderately active person, not an athlete, the recommendation is about 45 to 55% of carbohydrates. Now, when we say carbohydrates, we're not just talking about your breads and your rices and things like that. We're talking about fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans, all of those things are classified as carbohydrates. So about 45 to 55% for a moderately active person. An athlete, we're looking more like 55 to 65% of carbohydrates, and about 20% fats, and the remainder would be protein.
Okay.
Good. I came across information that spoke to the need in terms of nutritional needs of an athlete versus a sedentary person. How would you speak to that? Is there a difference in terms of what the athlete needs, the nutritional needs of the athlete? Does it vary from the person who sits at his computer all day? Is there a difference there? Should there be a difference?
Yes, absolutely. Because think about it. What does an athlete do? They're performing, right? They're burning energy, right?
Absolutely.
So energy is needed more. And the energy source that they're using more of is carbohydrates. The sedentary person isn't doing too much. So the energy that they need is they're mostly they're at resting state. So they just need energy to do basic things like sit, stand, walk,
Just to live, to keep alive.
Yeah, just to stay alive, basically. Yeah. So yeah, a sedentary person would not need the same amount of carbohydrates as an athlete. They would need more. The type of carbohydrates also varies too. So like I told you before, an athlete is going to need a lot more simple carbs because they need that fast absorbing and energy right away. But someone who's sedentary, they're going to need more fiber. So most of their carbohydrate sources should come from plants and legumes and whole grains, whereas the athlete would have more of the refined rices and breads, and they could use that energy more efficiently.
Right. How would you, because part of our program here tonight was supposed to touch a little bit on weight management. I hope I'm using the correct term, or weight management, or how would you explain, or should I say, shed some light on the issue of caloric intake, in terms of persons getting over fat, and another person maintaining, should I say, a good semblance of leanness. But how does caloric intake relate to wellness and to fatness and all that? How do you?
Yeah, calories is basically a unit of energy. That's how we're measuring what food does for us, is with calories, right? So with someone who is overweight, what that means is they are burning less than they eat. They're eating a lot more. They're getting a lot more energy from food than they're actually using. So the body then takes that extra energy and turns it, especially like, for instance, if they're having extra sugar, because most of the time that's what it is, it's the excess glucose that they're getting, that stores in the body as glycogen in the liver. And then eventually you'll get it as stored fat. And that's how that happens. Now, for someone to lose that stored fat, they now have to burn more than they intake. Okay. Yeah. So that's where that whole caloric intake difference comes from. So that's why the basic recipe for weight loss is calories in versus calories out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if there's an imbalance there, or some kind of dissonance, so you're not going to get fat like hail or something else. But that's important.
I'm looking at some information here regarding carbohydrate and calories. It's saying that the typical diet for a person who weighs like about 150 pounds, non-active person should include about 1,350 calories. And they're saying for a person with the same weight who is active, they should have, say, about anywhere from 1,900 to 2,700 calories. So it's a huge difference.
Very, yeah. So that person who's a little more active is using that energy more. So they need it, because not only are they more active, they also just need calories to live, just like the person who's not active. So they would use the 1,300 calories to survive, and then that extra 600 calories is for their activity.
There's also the school of thought that athletes need a greater supply of protein than does the average person, the average sedentary person. I mean, specifically protein now, that they need more of that as compared to the average person, sedentary type person. Your views?
Right, yeah.
What's your views on this?
The protein, like I said before, protein are the building blocks of the body. We have protein in our hair, nails, skin. It's made of our tissues, our muscles. It's even in our bones. So someone who's athletic and they're performing, they're tearing muscle fiber. You know, they're moving their body in ways that's not normal. So they're creating damage in the body. So in order to repair that damage, we need protein. So their protein intake has to be higher in order for them to, you know, prevent injury and to recover so they can continue to perform.
So you would agree then that if in terms of the timing of the intake of protein, that is perhaps more critical to consume your quality proteins post-training, after training.
Yes.
You know, when your body is in the reparative state, it's trying to repair and therefore needs quality protein to do so. Yes?
Yes, definitely after. You could
yeah,
have protein before, but I feel like before performance, the body mostly uses the energy from the carbs. The protein is kind of there as a backup to keep you, you know, to keep your muscles protected.
Yes.
And then, but definitely after the activity, you want to use that protein to rebuild and recover.
Right. What happens if you take in excess protein? Because I have to ask this because I said people listening will be saying, well, you know.
Yeah, excess protein in the body will actually end up turning into sugar.
Or fat.
Eventually fat.
Being stored as fat.
So just to get onto what John was talking about, you know, we talk about it earlier on today also, Mrs. Drummond, whereby there are a lot of athletes who believe, just like what John was saying, oh, I got to eat a lot of protein, especially if they're playing sports that require strength. And so they're saying, okay, I got to eat a lot of protein. So I got to eat a big plate of chicken or a big plate of, you know, organ meat or whatever it might be. But then they're forgetting that actually the strength doesn't come from just eating protein. The strength is developed from resistant exercises. Okay, so that's something that pretty much adjoin with what you and John was just talking about a while ago, that you pretty much just need to take in the amount of protein that would be required for the activity that you're doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so think of okay, if we're talking about different types of athletic performance, so we're talking about strength training, and think of cardiovascular exercise, think of a marathon runner. They're both very active, but their protein allotments are going to be different, right? Because think of what's happening in each activity. So the one who's tearing the most muscle is going to need the most protein. They could use that extra protein.
Absolutely.
Okay. The one that's using more, who's doing more cardiovascular exercise is going to need more of the carbohydrates. They still need protein because they are tearing the body, but not at the same rate.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be different.
Yeah, that's quite a good point. And in fact, the research is showing that in terms of the daily protein intake, the kind of so-called ideal level of protein intake, the recommendation has been that it's 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight within that range.
Yeah, that's for
for active people, you know. So interestingly.
So what other isn't protein also responsible for the production of like enzymes and hormones and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you elaborate a little bit on that first, because we spoke about it as it relates to building like bones, ligaments, and tendons, but can you speak about it as it relates to like enzymes and hormones?
Yeah, so protein is used in those too. Hormones, specifically fats, are more prevalent with hormones. So that's where the lipids and the fats are actually what, if you think about cholesterol, that's mostly fat based. So that's when we're talking about hormones.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. So we can move on to Fat John, or do you wanna? We talked about the food pyramid, and then you said that maybe you would be able. Do you still have it in your Are you still gonna present that to?
Oh, okay. Let me show you. Hold on.
Yeah.
Very, briefly, so that people can understand how we go up the pyramid and what is important and so forth.
Okay. If you let me share my screen, I could show you the pyramid.
I don't think we have that facility though, do we? All right, try it. Let's see.
Okay, here we go. Let's see here. Okay, so you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the typical pyramid that we've been conditioned to work from for years. But the problem here is that we're not the same people that we were back then when they came out with this pyramid, right? So we were talking a little bit earlier about the sedentary lifestyle versus an active lifestyle. If you think about the 80s and 90s, we were a lot more active then than we are now. Okay, just us sitting down having this meeting, we're not moving, right? Before we have to actually go somewhere and meet up, and that would cost more energy. So this is just to show you how they organize different types of food groups that were recommended for humans to be consuming on a daily basis. So now the pyramid, I think, would look closer to this now. Okay.
Oh.
This is more so where we should be at with our food. We need to have daily exercise, mostly, right? That has to happen on a daily basis, at least 30 minutes a day. Our carbohydrate sources should come from plant-based sources, mostly, especially if we are more sedentary. And then, but we should also be introducing whole grains too. But like I said, the fiber here is the key, because that's what's going to keep us satiated the longest and not spike our blood sugar. It's going to keep the blood. It's gonna keep us fuller longer. And then our fats are also going to be very satiating as well. So that's going to be where we're getting from our nuts and seeds and our fatty fishes, right? And then we want to limit our dairy intake, because that has a lot of the saturated fats in dairy. Okay, so we want to limit that. But we do get some protein from that as well. And then your refined grains, like your sugary sweets and your white breads and fats, you want to use them sparingly too. You don't want to be having them too much, because we know that the sugar will be stored as fat, and if we're not moving as much, that's definitely going to happen. So
okay.
This is a better example of the pyramid that we should be following for an everyday person. An athlete could probably use the original pyramid, but I would still have them, I would still recommend that they get a lot of their carbohydrates from plant-based sources too, like fruits and vegetables.
And just for the sake of good health.
Yes, absolutely.
Outside of performance, enhancing performance and so on, just for the sake of good health.
So so you touch on like the fat, animal fat, and so forth. Because we have so many viewers right now who are not enough, but we have so many viewers who are focusing on wellness. I just want to add to what you're saying, that these saturated fats usually result in cardiovascular diseases and also result in some form of cancers also, right?
Yeah, what the saturated fats do is they raise the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol in the body, right? So saturated fat gets solid at room temperature. So if you think about how that would work in the body, it would, if you are having a high amount of saturated fat in your body, think of that hard, solid fat being in your arteries.
Yes.
That's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yes.
It's going to raise the blood pressure because now your body has to force blood through those tight arteries. And, you know, with high blood pressure, it comes a string of other problems, stroke, heart attack, all of those things that kill us very easily. So the monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats are the better forms of fats. Those raise our HDL, our good cholesterol.
Would you be able to? Oh, I was about to ask if you were able to identify some foods.
Yes, absolutely. So like, you know, saturated fat is going to be your animal fat and dairy, and your mono and polyunsaturated fats are going to come from meat, nuts, and seeds and fatty fishes.
Right. I just as an anecdote here, I remember going into accompanying someone to a fast food store, one of the very popular chicken producing fast food stores. And, you know, I was glancing at the restaurant, the workers at the back there doing their stuff. And I saw when one of them used a kind of spoon and dug down into what looked like lard, and then just plopped it in it was hard at room temperature, you know, as you were talking there. You know, and they just plopped it into the big pot, the cooking pot, and that was the fat that they're using to make this chicken quite leaking. But it was interesting, man. Serious thing.
So from what I gather so far from the pyramid, you know, our advice to our viewers would be to eat a diet that is very high in whole grain products, vegetables and fruits.
Yes, vegetables and fruits are carbohydrates too. So when we're talking about getting 55% of our carbs, really think about the bulk of those carbohydrates being plant-based. So from our legumes, beans, vegetables, fruits, and then our whole grains too.
Great.
And then we should be eating not just one type of food, but we should be eating a variety, because no one type of food is going to provide us with the nutrients that we really need, right?
Right. So we want to eat the rainbow. So lots of different colors, lots of different flavors. They all work together. The thing with nutrition, you can't isolate things.
Right, absolutely.
For instance, in order for you to probably absorb iron, you need vitamin C. So a lot of nutrients work together like that. So having a a diet that's full of variety is going to give you the best health, because you're kind of covering all your bases. You're taking care of everything. You're not just taking, you know, you're not just eating this one vegetable and getting just these few nutrients from it. You're getting a variety of different things. And in conjunction, you're going to be a fully nourished human being.
What would you say? We're kind of slowly running out of time. But what would you say to the person who is trying to, should I say, lose body weight, a slightly fat person who's trying to lose body weight, or even the person who's trying to just maintain? What advice, given the pyramid that you have so nicely described here, would you give that person trying to maintain and control body weight? What would you say to that person listening?
Okay. A person that's trying to lose and maintain a healthy body weight, I would say focus on water first, right? Make sure you're fully hydrated. Cook most of your food yourself, because then you can kind of control what goes into your body. I would also say focus on getting a lot of protein. The great thing about protein when it comes to weight loss is that, remember I told you carbohydrates and fats our body uses those as our main energy sources, right? So protein doesn't provide us energy. So the more protein you eat, the more every time you eat, you're stimulating your metabolism. So the more protein you eat, you're constantly stimulating your metabolism, and your body's only going to be able to burn the carbohydrate or the energy source that's available. Usually that's carbohydrates first. Then it will, if it doesn't find enough carbohydrates to burn as energy, it will tap into your fat stores next. So protein actually helps with that. It also suppresses hunger. because you're putting in the protein, you're eating your protein, so it's suppressing your hunger. You're not going to be craving as much sugar. Right. And also, when you have a diet, if you're consistently consuming, I would say 30% of your total calories in a weight loss phase as protein, consistently consuming that will make your body mass more lean, right? So you're going to be building more lean muscle. That means you're going to be burning more calories at rest, which means it's going to be easier for you to maintain your weight long term.
Yeah, okay, excellent. And in the same breath, a quick word to the athlete, the person who is training hard, needs to eat well. What could you say in a nutshell to that person as well? I'm not a sedentary person. I am hard working here. What could you say to me?
Well, I would say
I'm pumping iron and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to the weight loss person, but the biggest difference is you're going to need more simple carbs before you fuel. So make sure you're getting that in. Also hydrate, because you're losing a lot more water than the average person. So when your body doesn't have that much water, what happens is your body kind of borrows water other places in your body, which will affect you negatively. For instance, if your body starts taking water from your blood cells, that means your blood pressure is going to go up, because now your blood cells become smaller. So they encourage more blood to push through in order to keep things moving. So that's going to create issues. So make sure you're fully hydrated. It's very important. Also, getting in your protein. Have your 25 to 30% of protein as an athlete, so that you can recover and rebuild. And just make sure you're getting enough calories. I think the thing with athletes compared to normal people is they actually need a lot more food. So it's very easy for them to undereat. So that's why a lot of nutritional supplements are catered to athletes, to make sure they're hitting those numbers.
Yeah. So with what you just mentioned a while ago, I just want to add something that this should be something that anybody who is working out focus on when it comes to hydration that you mentioned before. And because of what you mentioned about the cells, then they should not wait until you actually feel thirsty. You should have a period where you take a water break, right? Just to ensure that you're properly hydrated.
And you could probably add to that, particularly if you live in the tropics.
Yeah.
Because usually by the time you start feeling thirsty, it's already too late.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you incorporate whatever you're doing, whether working out or whether you're coaching. You want to make sure you incorporate hydration break, a water break. I usually call it a water break in whatever you're doing. Also, I see you move away from the permit, but there is something I wanted to ask you, and I know it's detailed. So maybe you could give or viewers your telephone number or whatever your contact is for your business, so that they can get any more detail. I noticed that you had there the number of serving for each food group. All right, so this is based on a lot of measurement and so forth. So if you don't mind, before we get to the end of the program, can you do you want to give us what your contact is right now, so that people would want to know what amount of serving for each food group they can contact you and see exactly what it is?
Yeah, so let me see if I can share it again. Okay, no. But yeah, so I'm virtually known on social media as Lady Nourrir, and that's LadyNourrir. On Instagram, TikTok, all the major social media handles. That's my name. And my website is greengainshealth.com if you need to contact me. But yeah, I'd be happy to help anybody that is interested in improving their nutrition, whether it's an athlete or someone who wants to lose weight.
Right. And you do give seminars and talks and so on.
Yes. And I also, I sell a nutritional cooking system too. So kind of piggybacking on nutritional supplements, we want to have a diet where we're mostly focused on food. And a lot of these nutritional companies, they kind of take advantage of us because they know that when we manipulate food in a way that removes nutrients from it, right? So the way we cook our food at high temperatures, using the wrong kind of metals in our cookware. So that's also another thing that I do as well, is educate and demonstrate how to cook food properly to retain 93% of the nutrition.
Absolutely.
So in essence, then, if you're cooking your food the right way, we really would not need nutritional supplements then.
No.
But I want to beg to differ though, because the rule of thumb, well, what's being said nowadays is that you might see a carrot, looks like a carrot, probably even tastes like a carrot, but in terms of the nutritional impact, and it has been lessened over time, because of the agricultural practices, the use of artificial pesticides and all kind of things. So the quality of the product that we eat is not so robust anymore. And that brings me to something that you just said about the use of supplements. I'm going to give you a final word before we close. In terms of what is the value, in a nutshell again, do you think there's any value in the use of supplements? Supplements being whatever, the vitamins, minerals, and so on. What would you say to that in closing,
Supplements are exactly what they sound, right? They're supposed to supplement. So the basic foundation of your nutrition should come from whole foods, right? If you're not taking care of that first, don't even worry about the supplements, because that's not going to help you. You need to make sure you're eating the food first, the vegetables, the fruits, the protein, getting your healthy fats in, all that has to be covered first. Then what the supplements will do is they'll kind of give the nutrients that you're getting from the food a nice boost.
Right.
So then you're kind of covering everything all together.
Right.
Can you quickly, because we haven't covered vitamin and minerals yet, can you quickly cover vitamins and minerals so that people understand how it helps in the energy supply to the body?
Yeah, so vitamins and minerals are what the cells actually. So, okay, if you want to think of the carbohydrates, fats, and proteins as what gives the body, what builds up the body and gives the body energy, like the whole body. And then think of your cells, your individual cells as little bodies, right? That's where your vitamins and nutrients nourish those cells. And over time, cell restoration, cells are constantly being replaced over time. So the more you're eating foods rich in vitamins and minerals, you're building these new, beautiful, healthy cells. And that in turns, creates a healthier being. So, and vitamins and minerals, where you get them? From your fruits and vegetables. So that's why those have to be
the rainbow foods, right?
Yes, rainbow foods. The more color and flavor and variety, the more vitamins and minerals you're getting.
Indeed.
So in closing today, we understand that changing habits is very hard to do, but we have Mrs. Drummond explaining to us today the importance of good nutrition as it relates to performance, as it relates to a healthy living, as it relates to managing your weight. The funny thing about it is that a lot of us, just like your car, we need fuel. And we spend money to put the most expensive fuel in our car, premium fuel. But yet, we do not fuel our body right by spending the right amount of money to fuel our body. So I want to admonish all of our listeners to start paying much attention to your diet. Pay attention to how you're fueling your body, because this is very critical to your health. When you do also, make sure that you don't just eat something because of the taste. You eat it based on the benefit that you're receiving from the produce. So it's a matter of just focusing on these two areas that if you don't do this, if you don't make food your medicine, then what is going to happen later on in your life? Medicine is going to become your food. Which one do you want? So let us start practicing the type of fuel that our body need. Instead of spending money on that premium gasoline, spend that money on premium food. Take care of your body as good as you take care of your cars.
Absolutely.
And
Nice
Mrs. Drummond, I want to say thank you so. Mrs. Drummond, John, I want to say thanks very much, Mrs. Drummond, for coming in and sharing such vital information with our listeners. And we look forward to having you back again on the program, because this is just the surface of nutrition. We all know that. So we're going to need you back definitely to get into the depth of nutrition. You know, we can almost talk about every single food group totally separate, and we can make that a whole show. So again, we want to say thanks, and thanks to our listeners. Once again, let's pay attention to what we put into our body. Let's fuel our body properly.
And subscribe.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody. Good night.
Have a good day.